Eyes for Politics.
Tonight we begin a special series of reports on oceans as part of NBC Universal's Green Week, with the number of fish becoming dangerously low and a prediction that the world's major fisheries could collapse by 2048. NBC Chief Environmental Affairs correspondent Ann Thompson takes a look at new efforts to keep the fish population thriving in part one of our special series, Sea Change: Our Oceans, Our Planet, and Our Future.
Through the fog of a Florida morning, red snapper glisten on a dock in Destin. It is the Gulf of Mexico's signature fish and under threat. Not from hurricanes, not from disease, simply from overfishing.
We got to a point in the 90s where we had more boats than fish.
Commercial fisherman David Krebs remembers when the fishery collapsed, decimating its reproductive population. Today, the United Nations says 28% of the world's fish stocks are depleted. Among the most at risk, mackerel icefish in Australia, southern bluefin tuna in the Indian and Pacific Oceans, Atlantic salmon in Scandinavia.
The problem in the world's oceans is not just the growing global appetite for fish or even greed, but it's that today we can do a better job of catching fish than ever before.
Sonar and GPS systems help the fishermen zero in on their catch. The situation's so dire, the federal government has stepped in, closing fishing grounds, limiting catches, and changing the fishing gear. When the scallop beds collapsed off the coast of New England in the early 90s, fisherman Paul Rosanina was suspicious of help from the government and scientists.
You know, you think that they're going to try to close us down, save the rocks, save the sand, save everything. But, working with them, I think, it's been good.
Scallops are now the most valuable fishery in the U.S. Fishing days are limited. Rosanina fishes about 60 days instead of year-round out of New Bedford, Massachusetts. Marine scientist Michael Fogarty thinks these partnerships are part of the answer.
I do think there's reason for optimism that we've turned a corner in terms of controlling exploitation rates. There's a lot of work ahead.
Now the government is taking similar measures in the Gulf, imposing science-based catch limits. But the red snapper fishery is far from recovered.
That is not going to happen officially until 2032 based on what the scientists tell us.
Today, David Krebs runs fewer boats with fewer people. But catching fewer of the fish consumers love means higher prices.
Is that a good haul?
It's awesome. You fish 24 hours. So they went out and something they couldn't have done 10 years ago.
A new way of fishing to sustain the ocean and its fishermen well into the future. Ann Thompson, NBC News, Destin, Florida.
There will be much more on the environment all this week on the networks of NBC Universal, on NBC Nightly News, and on our website, nightly.msnbc.com. Up next, our